Just realized. All right. So, welcome aboard, everybody, to the podcast for 2023. I wanted to update those um, that basically are unaware. Um, so, I've been taking time off of this podcast, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my projects that are under the media industries, such as this podcast. And, the decision is to keep this podcast going. I do not know who I have lined up this year as guests. I do not know what I'm going to talk about this year yet, just to be transparent. But I want to encourage those that are listening or anywhere that this podcast can be found, whether it's in video form on the YouTube channel, Twitch, wherever you're watching this, as well as the audio form on the many platforms out in the interwebs. You can definitely see there's an array of topics, but then the through line on this podcast has been music, specifically in the electronic dance music category. Um, so this is why I'm wearing, for those that are watching, uh, my Groove Cruise sweatshirt. Because A, I'm going on in a couple weeks, and B, uh, there's been guests and people associated with the Groove Cruise for past episodes. Uh, and so here we are. There will be a new rebranding of this podcast, meaning that the logo is going to change after 10 years. Can you imagine? So you might see that update coming out soon. The details are being worked out for those that are curious about this podcast. Also, you may see other updates associated with BB Media Industries. There's some ideas of what to do in the future. It's been a interesting decade with my projects, and I have things in the works that might take away from the podcast. This year I have some goals. Related to the podcast. There was an episode called Modern Day Cult. I'm writing a book about it. I really do need to get my ass in gear to finish this book. In order to be published, according to the Google, I need to write 78,000 more words. So I got a lot of writing to do. For those that are looking for that, hopefully I'll be able to get it self-published sometime in the future if I ever finish writing it. I also have begun bringing out more of, I played saxophone forever, and I want to get my saxophones back in gear and produce music myself. So that's a thing. So that might be taken away from the podcast. I don't know. 2023, everything's up in the air. Welcome aboard. I don't really have a lot of great, apologize for the notifications coming through, but I don't have a lot of intense updates other than things are in the works for 2023. Thank you for sticking by this podcast. If you're listening on Spotify and you haven't listened to the new short welcome trailer, I'm just going to repeat the information that is in there. Please, if you're listening to this podcast anywhere on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any platform where they have a rating system and comments, please leave a favorable rating and comment. It helps this podcast be suggested to other listeners and keep going. If you want to specifically support my efforts, you can click the support button on the RSS feed, which is found on anchor.fm. Click that button, follow through. It'd be much appreciated. And since there's going to be a lot of logo rebranding this year in 2023, I'm going to have to redo the merch. Not that many people know about the merch. I kind of redid it this past year. But because of, life, things got put on the back burner. So hopefully I'll be able to do the merch coming up. So welcome aboard to 2023. I really don't have much more. For those that are actually watching the video, you'll notice that the sound was a little off in the beginning of this. But for those that are listening to this in podcast form, everything should be great. So thank you for listening and watching, and be on the lookout for new episodes in 2023. And be safe, everybody, and Happy New Year.